Welcome to the Nipple Chronicles, the podcast where we dive headfirst into the raw and real experiences of women today. I'm your host, Jessica, and I'm here to challenge the norms, stir the pot, and celebrate the individuality of women, while confronting unhealthy societal norms and, most importantly, honoring our authentic selves. So buckle up and get ready to laugh, learn, and maybe even unlearn some of the things you thought you knew about being a woman today. Welcome to episode 8 of the Nipple Chronicles. I am here today with the lovely Ahimsa, and she will be unveiling the true shades of pregnancy, the good, the challenging, the scary, and the sacred. She is an artist, creator, artist developer, singer, songwriter. Welcome, Ahimsa.
Hello.
So excited to have you on today. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I have some long-standing roots in the music arena. I have been working, recording music for about 20 years, and professionally was doing it for about maybe 12 years. I have records on all the DSPs, have done some really cool things in my career, have performed on some pretty big stages, have been on TV, have had music videos on TV, have met a lot of really cool people, worked with Grammy Award-winning musicians, and written songs for other artists, and done backgrounds on other artists' work, and so I've done a lot of really cool things. Now I'm more so playing the background, doing songwriting for other artists, and background vocals still, but doing a lot of vocal development and artist development, which I've been scaling back lately because she is pregnant.
Well, which leads us right into what our topic for today will be and what we'll be discussing. So for those of you watching on YouTube, you may or may not be able to see that she is growing a human, and she is here today to talk to us about really the mystery of pregnancy. We talked about this early on, how you a lot of people don't really talk about it, right? And I said, well, what is that? Do they forget? And the conclusion is that they do.
I really think that's a thing.
Yeah. I mean, I talked to my sister-in-law, and she's like, yeah, I think the body, whoever created it, whatever you believe in, created it with that intention.
It's a safety mechanism, because if you recall everything that was traumatic or was hard or was painful or challenging about pregnancy, you would never procreate. You'd be like, I'm not doing that
One
again.
and done.
One and done. And the species would be over. People would be like, what? Why would I put myself through that again?
Yeah, no, and we were talking about this during our pre-interview, how magical and amazing women's bodies are in general, let alone when you're growing a human, that throughout every single day, not pregnant and pregnant, there is an active process happening in our bodies that we have no mental connection to. It's just happening.
It's just happening.
Whether it's growing an egg or dropping an egg,
right? It's just
dividing
happening
into many cells. Right now, she could be growing an ear while we're filming this podcast.
Well, the ears should be established. I mean, we're gonna hope and pray that the ears are already
all done. Yeah. So you're how far along?
I am a little over 8 months pregnant now.
So now it's just him putting on him. I keep calling him him. The baby's gender is unrevealed at this point. But them, they. He already has pronouns. They already have pronouns. He, she, all of it. The BB sleigh. So tell us about your pregnancy. And also, wait, you're married, right?
Yes.
Okay, so married, pregnant, which again, no judgment. However people create and procreate is totally their business.
Right.
Married. Tell us a little bit about your pregnancy journey.
It's definitely a journey. I will say that. I I did not know that I was pregnant when I took the pregnancy test because I wasn't late yet. And something was just telling me, like, I think I might have been due to get my period maybe like in a couple days or something like that. And I didn't want to jinx it. Like, we were trying, and I didn't want to jinx it by, like, taking a pregnancy test. But something was just like, take the test. So I was like, fuck it, I'm going to do it. So I did, and I was like, oh, shit. Like, and it wasn't like I had symptoms or anything, because it was like, I think I probably at the time was, like, a month pregnant. So it wasn't like I was having any feels or anything. But that was the beginning of my journey, and my pregnancy, I am a little on the older side. I'm 39, so it was not like the pregnant people you see in the gym, like lifting weights and like being fabulous and like going for jogs and shit. I was not that person. I was like, I'm tired and I don't have any, like, appetite, and I can't eat, I can't drink water. It was like watermelon the whole first trimester, damn near. I actually lost weight. She had a thigh gap. Yeah, that was an added bonus for a bit. And now the thigh gap is gone. But
you can
she lived.
feel those thighs.
She lived. for yeah, you know, and then second trimester, I developed an appetite, which I was very happy about, because that is something that I think every pregnant person enjoys about being pregnant, is the shameless eating.
I can attest to this. I've watched her eat. We spent a weekend together.
Guilt trips you. You're just like, and I want that. And I want 2 of those. And I want... Our wedding anniversary this year was spent in Vegas so that we could go to the Wynn Buffet.
And eat,
because that was my pregnancy dream this entire time, was like, I just want to sample a lot of things all at once. I don't want a full plate, a full meal of that thing, but I might want Mexican food and a pancake at the same time.
So those of you that are listening and you have these similar desires and aspirations in your life.
You're not crazy.
You're not crazy. And also, like, just be pregnant and know that, like, no one will shame you.
No one will shame you. They'll be like, oh, like, is this your craziest craving? I'm like, not really, but I'm craving it now.
She's like, this is Tuesday. Like,
this is what she wants now.
Call me next week. It may be that I want to eat, you know, a cantaloupe with a sausage.
Cantaloupe, which I never, ever liked in my entire life, and was eating cantaloupe, like actually wanting cantaloupe. And I was like, who am I?
I desire.
Who am I? Who is this person?
Like, a deep-seated desire for cantaloupe. I mean, you had mentioned the watermelon, so maybe your body got burned out. It was like, okay,
yeah, it didn't.
We got our fill of like all the lycopins.
It was. And now we're going to incorporate a new friend.
Pineapple?
Together. Pineapple, not so much.
Okay, so right now it's just cantaloupe and...
The cantaloupe phase has ended.
Okay. But Sorry for cantaloupes.
But it was a thing for a while. It was a thing.
I love that for you. And I love that newfound discovery of a different version of yourself.
Yeah.
A cantaloupe-loving self.
A cantaloupe-loving self. I know that in the multiverse there is an iteration of me that always loved cantaloupe, but she moved into this dimension for a time, and then she went home.
That was it. She just got a fill of this.
Dipped her toe into this realm for a time, and now she's back where she came from.
Well, I'd imagine during your pregnancy, you've met all those variations and characters from the multiverse.
Oh, I've met many of them. Yes.
So, what were your initial thoughts and feelings when you did find out that you were pregnant?
I was really excited. We were actually trying, so I was really excited and felt accomplished, you know, because when you're older, everyone's always like, you know, after 35, even though now it's like super common that women are getting pregnant after 35, but in the medical space, it's like, because you're a geriatric pregnancy. And my husband latched on to that word, because she's a geriatric pregnancy. you're a geriatric pregnancy. I'm like, okay.
Does he have black eyes permanently now from your...
He should, but...
In theory.
She's been gentle with him.
So for those of you that are planning to come to her baby shower, she's requesting like a wiffle bat or a foam bat or something to just give him a little whack. Because the thing is, it's not going to stop. Like once you actually give the baby, he's going to latch on to other crazy things. And you're just going to need like a gentle, non-aggressive reminder to anytime you're hit with this bat, like... It's the pause moment.
It's the pause, and let's think about it and rephrase.
You go to your corner.
Go to your room.
Go take a break. Does he have his own room?
No, but maybe he should.
Maybe. That'll be the next. It'll be like baby Soleil and mama room, and move him maybe to the living room or something.
I swear.
Let's go exist somewhere else. You did this.
You did this to me.
Oh, I love it. So, obviously, you had mentioned the hot gym girls with their pregnant mommy bellies, and we're all given a portrayal of what pregnancy is like on movies and TV and in the media. How was your experience, expectation versus, like, what you expected versus what was the actual reality?
What I expected was that I would get, because what I had always heard is like, yeah, like you have your life before you get pregnant, before you have your kid. And then when you get your kid, it's like everything becomes laser focused and you get super clear about everything you need to do. Your direction becomes illuminated. Everything just like opens up for you. So I was kind of waiting for that. I was like...
Ultimate mental clarity.
And I got pregnancy brain. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. What day is this? And how come they didn't respond to my text? Oh, because I never sent it. Or I'm double booking myself. Or I'm like, I don't know where the fuck I am half the time. I didn't get that. I didn't get the like, shoom. And maybe that's to come.
Maybe. We're going to put that energy out.
We'll put that...
But, like,
out into the universe.
We don't want, I am so proud of mothers. I have friends who have babies. I have my brother and his partner have babies. So anytime I come across a new mom and they've showered that day, the baby is clean, and like the house isn't on fire, I'm like, congratulations.
You're doing a good job.
You are doing an amazing job. You literally have a gaping hole in your body that is healing because, you're about to like birth your baby and its house, like it's gonna all come out. I'm sorry if you can see her eyeballs. Know that I don't know if she was ready for that one. They're open. But just knowing that, like women, it's so surreal, and I'm always so blown away. I didn't even know that this was a thing until recently, but whenever I would go visit, like a new mom, a friend, whoever, I would always bring a present. And I later found out that was called a push gift.
You're such a good person.
I want to like celebrate them. I'm like, thank you. You've like continued the species. You did something that I've been terrified to do pretty much my entire life. I'm getting better now. I'm like now open to the idea and possibilities. I will be geriatric as well. But, no, it's crazy. Geriatric. I know exactly. One of my really good friends, she's a few years younger, and she's pregnant, and she got, like, she was like, why do they keep saying that? Like, my geriatric pregnancy.
It's like, this is not the 70s. Like, women are waiting until they're in their 40s. At my chiropractor's office, there was literally a woman who was 49 on her first pregnancy.
Wow.
I was like, God bless you.
Somebody, actually, the woman who I had on episode 2, Shireen, she and I had this discussion. I don't remember if it was on the podcast, but we talked about, just the collective consciousness and how we are manifesting and connecting deeply to our soul and our being in a way that has us living longer, has us procreating much later. And I say it as like, it's a privilege now that I think we all have this like heightened awareness and we're connected. I know like I mean, when you told me you're 39, I did not believe you. But
I received.
I mean, when I had our mutual friend Diana, a couple episodes ago, I was blown away when I was like, "Oh, well, you were in school in the 90s," and she just scoffed at me and was like, "Oh, bless your soul." So I jokingly said we're going to have her back for another episode about skincare.
Right.
It's such an interesting like dynamic now that, again, people are having babies later and healthy babies and beautiful babies. And there's so many different other things that are going on. But I think that with the resources that are available, and we'll get into that in a second, but like asking you what you've been using or what's been supporting you, I think that there is an opportunity for women, especially women who are a little bit older right now that are listening to this podcast, to know, like, you're not geriatric. Like, if your parts are functioning,
pretty standard.
If you want a baby and you're in your 40s, it is possible.
Yeah.
Medicine is there to support you, alternative medicines as well as Western medicines, and being connected to that. Like, if you want it, what do they say? If you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
If you want it, you will birth it.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I've always been a pretty healthy let me not lie, because in my 20s I was a hot mess. Not necessarily because I was eating crazy shit, but I just didn't care. And I was like,
Reckless era.
Yeah.
I mentioned that in my first episode.
Yeah. But for the most part, like, and even how we were raised on natural foods and, organic and all that kind of stuff. I've been a vegetarian for a few years. I, eat pretty responsibly. I'm not like a fast food person. I don't drink soda. I haven't drank alcohol in a few years, so
at least a few
not
months.
a smoker. Well, at least a few. No, a few years. It's been a few years since I've had any alcohol. And, before I was pregnant, I had a good workout exercise regimen, So I was taking care of myself in my geriatric age, So that's, part of it.
You kept the soil fertile. You
the
maintained
soil was fertile.
all of it.
And I think what also gets missed a lot is, like, what's going on with your mental health, your stress level. Like, are you constantly under stress? Are you constantly, like, chronically depressed? Are you, dealing with a lot of emotional turmoil all the time? And I'd spent the last several years really digging into my emotional and metaphysical self. And I kind of just put this together very recently, but around the time I conceived, I had went to, and these events were separated literally by like a day or two in between each. I went to a week-long meditation retreat. Shout out Dr. Joe Dispenza. He's fabulous. Week-long meditation retreat. And then went to an energy clearing massage right after that, like maybe a day later. And then went to basic.
So when she refers to basic, it's a personal development, emotional intelligence training that we actually met through.
Did a lot of catharsis and shedding. And I conceived probably like either around the last day of advance or like shortly after. So I did like super rearranging of the energetic furniture and cleared a bunch of shit. And this is on the heels of like several years of therapy and like working out a lot of, emotional stuff that I had been carrying since my childhood and working my stuff out, so there's a lot of stuff that was at play for me. And it's not to say that my journey is going to be everybody's journey, but like, there were a lot of factors at play,
Well, I know that's amazing. And I do think that like when they say it happens when it's supposed to happen, like divine timing, but also just when you're ready. I know people are like, oh, you're never ready. And I'm like,
you're ready. You might not be aware that you're ready, but you're ready when it's the time.
I mean, even like
for your journey.
I had a cousin who, her and her husband had been trying, and they wanted to, like have a baby, and she was like, "Okay, I'm ready. We've been married. We're ready to like have a baby," and it hadn't happened. They were trying for a few months, and then she and I went skiing, and we did ski. I had one skiing light. I bunny hopped and almost killed a kid, but
okay.
Another episode, another story. But when we did the math of like when he was born, he's born in October. We went skiing in January. I'm like, after that day of skiing, did you go home and have some fun with your husband? And she's like, it was either that shot or a couple of days later. But that timeline adds up pretty close. And that's what's crazy is like I do believe that like your mind is a part of the journey. Like you have to be clear and grounded in yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And we had been trying for a while, and, it wasn't happening. And when I think about, like, hindsight is 20/20, and I think about it now, and I realize, like, how far I've come in my own personal journey within that window of, like, when we first started trying versus when we actually conceived, and it's like, oh. And I'm just really filled with a lot of gratitude that I did have that buffer because, I really was like, I was trying really hard, and I was just like, but I also had some stuff that needed
it was probably blocking it, right? Energetically blocking it.
And it's like, thank God that I was able to like handle that then, because it's like trying to think about handling shit now or like after the baby gets here, I'm like, yeah, right. Like that shit gets put on the shelf.
Yeah.
Until maybe they're 18. I don't know, but
ask your mom. Ask your mom, right?
Well, my mom just played LP, so I'm like, that shit got put on the shelf for 39 years.
Yeah, but she got to go through the experience, and I know you said your brother, so it's like, it's this, and your stepson, and your husband, like, everyone's in the healing process, which is beautiful, because now, beautiful baby gets to come into the world with having all of these people who have dealt with their own shit already.
Yeah, or at least like started.
An awareness. What they do with it, like once they're aware, like it's them, and obviously like you still get to create your boundaries of, who gets to be in your baby's energetic space. Which I love. And I think it's so important to, work on the mental, because that'll give you my next question right in there. Like, do you feel like you've had emotional and like mental challenges come up during your pregnancy? Yeah. And do you have a support system?
Definitely have had things come up, for the obvious reason that your hormones are like, when you get pregnant. And it's like, in one way it feels like a stereotype to say that, or like, a cheap shot at women, but it's like, it's true. Your hormones are doing wacky shit, and
like growing an ear, amongst other body parts.
And we all respond to that that hormonal upheaval differently. How I've responded to it is it will take me sometimes to a place of like emotional detachment and disconnect, where I'm like, I don't really feel anything, and like people will tell me stuff that should piss someone off or like hurt someone's feelings, and I'm just like, I don't care.
That could be part of your elevation.
It could,
or it could be the hormones. I guess we'll know.
I know
a year
that
from now.
Part of it is also because I'm pregnant, and I'm just like, I know that energetically I don't have it to.
No, you're not putting that fight. No.
Right. I don't have it to like entertain stupid, silly shit, or stuff that's not really important. If it's really important though, there's been times where I'm like, why are you being like this to me? And why is this happening? Which is also not my norm. Yeah. I'm not like...
Very grounded, very like...
Well, I mean...
attentive to your emotions.
Yes and no. I think, you know, especially because pre-pregnancy and like that, like, aggressive, I don't know, like, month and a half where I was just like, I'm doing all this healing and catharsis and energy work. Before that, I was very, like, emotionally veiled. And so it's like, you'll never see me sweat. You'll never see me cry. Like, you'll never see me go there with you. Like, I wasn't someone who, you know, like, would publicly emotionally unravel. You know, I'm my mother's child. So
your mother is very demure, but very, like, composed.
Yeah, it was all about, like, keeping it together and, like, being very controlled. And so this, where it's just like, I don't know why I'm crying, but I just feel. Or, like, being like, is this a red flag? Because I'm, like, completely emotionally detached and disconnected, and I don't feel anything about what you just said, and that probably should make me feel something, and I don't. So it's like extremes for me. There hasn't really been like, oh, I'm cool.
I'm neutral.
It's cool. And like, maybe
cool.
I feel a little bit.
But you were cool for so many years. It was bound to happen.
I wasn't cool. I was just, I had cool. A good poker face. I'm a Cancer, though. Let's not forget.
Yes. Happy belated
a double
birthday.
Cancer.
A double Cancer. I'm a triple Leo. Did I tell you that?
Beautiful.
So, you know. I don't know how we're friends, but we're friends. It's beautiful.
Control is a thing. We bond over control.
We do. We trust each other because it's like, you got this, I got this, we got each other.
You see me.
I love it. Well, I mean, obviously, you didn't answer the second part of the question.
Oh, sorry.
Which was the support system. I love it. No, it's okay.
I do.
Again, for those of you watching on YouTube, I already gave her a heads up if she needs to stand up because, you know, sciatica and growing a human. I said, just take the mic with you. You can stand up. You can move anywhere within this little frame that we're working with.
Right.
So, yeah, support system. I mean, obviously you mentioned your mom and your husband.
Yeah. My mom has really been, like, a godsend during this pregnancy. Like, she has bent over backwards to show up for me in ways that I'm not really used to being supported. And not just, like, the do aspect of, like, oh, let me get that for you, or let me take you here, or let me, you know, cook you food or whatever, but just, like, her way of being, you know, has been, like, very tender and gentle and, you know, I don't know, like, I've just, it's something that I'm relaxing into.
Do you think that your mom's a nurse, right? I feel like I remember her, like, she worked in the medical industry. Do you feel like it has, I mean, obviously, yes, but do you feel like it has to do with, like, your way of being that is more receptive and, like, letting it in?
That is new for me.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, that's one of her biggest breakthroughs, too, is learning to receive, you know.
Like mama, like daughter.
Shocking how that happens.
Who would have guessed?
Who would have guessed? But yeah, so this journey through pregnancy has really taught me a lot about where I am in my healing journey and where I still get to go. And receiving has been illuminated in a big way because me being pregnant, like, people don't want to let me do stuff, which on one hand is like, okay, is this like some, like, you know, men are like, you can't carry that because you're pregnant. And it's like, is that like misogynistic or is that like demeaning? Or it's like this fine line where it's like, I'm not used to people giving a fuck Like if I'm struggling to carry something, or if I am comfortable, or if I need something. Like I'm not used to people giving a fuck. But being pregnant, it's like everyone cares.
Yeah.
Which is very new.
Yeah, new territory.
New territory. And, you know, in the beginning, there was some resistance, and it's kind of like, I can do it. Like, I don't need, you know, like, but now I'm just like, I'm not going to tell you no. I won't stop you.
There's giving in that receiving. You know, you're giving them the opportunity.
In a state of allowance.
I love it. I love it.
I am in a state of allowance. You want to go pick that up for me and carry it? Go for it.
And see, with picking up and carrying, and especially with like reaching tall things, I'm 5'3".
We're
vertically challenged humans. I learned, not the emotional support. Let's be real. This is part of the evolution of this podcast and myself and my own healing journey. I learned pretty early on my physical, you know, vertical limitations, that I used to joke that if I ever did stand-up, that this would be one of my jokes, that I got so good at asking people to reach the top shelf that there were times when I would drop things on the floor and still ask them to pick it up. And I have a thing for very tall men, so I've dated like 6'4", 6'5" men, and I drop things on the floor, and I'm like, babe, like, grab that for me. Can you pick that up? Can you
do that for me?
Yes. But it's funny because it was only in partner relationships. And there were limits to it. So I look forward to the day when I can sit back and kick my feet up and say, yes, please. Yes, please. Of course. Thank you.
But these are the lessons. Like I've really had a lot of beautiful lessons throughout this pregnancy. Like it's really been a journey for me. Like not just like a physical journey. That's like the obvious journey is the physical part, but like the spiritual part and the emotional part and the like really unpacking a lot of like deep shit within me and like discovering things about myself and like woo, it's really been a beautiful journey in that regard. And like I was talking to my niece the other day, and she, you know, is kind of not sure how she feels about having kids and like maybe doesn't want kids, but you know, I was telling her when I was your age, I was the same way. Like, I was just kind of like, you know, I don't know what kind of mom I'd be. I don't know if I have the patience for kids. Like, I don't like crying babies. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to, blah, blah, blah. And I also realized I was kind of a hot mess back then.
Well, yeah,
we
talked about
it would have
which
been
you're allowed to be
inappropriate for me to have kids back then. Like, I had a lot of growing up to do and a lot of learning and discovery and healing to do. But the thing that I'm looking forward to the most now, being pregnant and like being so close to motherhood, is like I get to see and witness my healing journey manifest in physical form. Like that to me is like mind blowing to know that like I didn't conceive until I started dealing and processing and handling. So this is like my result.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I get to see what that healing looks like in physical form. And it looks like this baby that I'm growing, you know.
Oh, I'm so excited to meet them.
Me too. We're excited.
We're excited. They were very activated before we started recording.
Yeah.
She drank a big gulp of ice cold water, and little baby in there was bouncing around. He's rhythmic. They're rhythmic. So you had mentioned obviously the emotional and the spiritual and what you've gone through so far, but I know there are a lot of people that are extremely curious, myself included, the physical changes and what you've gone through. I know during our pre-interview we talked a little bit about some of your earlier scares and the intense physical changes you were experiencing.
Yeah. So initially my misconception about pregnancy was like, you know, pain and discomfort is a natural side effect of pregnancy. That's just a part of it, and there's nothing you can do about it. That was a myth and is not actually true. I learned from my chiropractor, who I now see once a week. I, at the top of my second trimester, maybe even as early as the end of my first trimester, developed SPD, which is symphysis pubis dysfunction, which basically is when women are close to childbirth, our pelvis will separate along our front seam to make space for the baby to pass through. When you have SPD, that process happens way early in pregnancy. So your pelvic floor muscles compensate by tightening the fuck up so hard.
So when they say, like, squeeze your butthole, like, yours was
your
essentially
butthole
just
is squeezed
doing it
without
itself.
you trying, and you are constantly
Uptight.
up tight. It's up and it's stuck tight.
And I know for those of you who have experienced this, I know we're making jokes about it, but
it's excruciatingly painful if unchecked.
Yes, and
excruciatingly painful.
She's on the other end of it. That
Yes.
she now has resources and tools
Yes.
to support her body. And we were talking about this earlier of, like, you know, ideally baby's born and everything goes back to somewhat regular.
Yeah, I mean, from what I hear, that's how it happens. The pelvis opens up when you have SPD because your body naturally, like I said, when you're close to birthing, will release a hormone called relaxin, which is what causes the pelvis to open. It just releases the hormone way early when you have SPD. So my guess, obviously, like, I'm not in the medical field, but my guess would be that once there are no more pregnancy hormones circulating in your body is not triggered to release relaxin anymore or to keep your pelvis in that open state, and will do what it needs to do to close it.
Did you hopefully, yes. Did you have like narrow hips before pregnancy?
She was born with hips. My mom tells a story that I came out
curvy baby,
and she looked at me and was like, "That's a woman." Like, she said, I literally had like an hourglass shape as a baby, as an infant, and I had a face full of makeup. I don't know how true that is, but she said that I had like lip liner, like I had a lip lined,
a natural shadow,
natural lip line, and my cheeks were all rosy, and my lashes were like. I was like, well, she was ready for the world.
She was an angel.
She came out ready.
She was divine and ready to make her mark on the world.
I don't know about all that, but she was ready. She was ready for something. I don't know what I was ready for, but I was ready for something.
Another episode, another episode, another time. During our carefree 20-something days.
Oh, boy.
So other than that, which obviously was very significant, and I know you had shared the impacts just on your lungs and on your organs and
all
everything being pushed up.
Like, right now, all my organs live here.
In a small little space.
In a small pocket. So there's a lot of indigestion because my stomach is kind of like, scrunched. And the acid's like, okay, we're running out of space, so we're just going to escape. And there's your indigestion. And you can't breathe sometimes because your lungs are like, it's a little cramped. And there's not a whole lot of space for us to expand. So
short breath.
Shortness of breath. And the weird thing about the digestive system is when you have to poop, you don't feel it in your stomach anymore.
No, because everything got pushed up.
You don't feel like stomach cramps in your chest, but you feel it like when it's like at your tail, like by your tailbone.
When it's already ready to go.
When it's ready to go, and you're like, okay, like I really legit have to poop now, but you don't feel like the stomach,
There's
like,
nothing
oh,
moving
my
through.
stomach is cramping. Like, you don't feel that anymore. And it's such a weird, because like you'll feel it like in your low back, and you'll be like, oh, poop time.
I'd imagine that. I love it. Such a connection. I actually joke that I have like a really weird connection to my body. Like I feel the processes as they're happening. When I eat, I can feel peristalsis, I think it's called, when your stomach is digesting. I used to call it my alien baby because I would literally feel like my stomach churning.
Wow.
What I'm thinking with your current architecture in your space is like certain organs got shifted up and certain organs got shifted back that were normally front and center.
That were normally like everything that would have been in like your stomach area is not there anymore because there's a baby there that's large now. So
like super mind blown right now.
And it's like the weird thing is that when you think of it logistically, it's like, duh, like your organs can't be there and a baby there living simultaneously. There's not space, so your organs got to go somewhere. They're not going to go down. So up, right?
Well, it's good they didn't go down because your pelvic bone is open.
I mean,
like
God bless my body for moving them up, right? But it's still a mind fuck. Like when you think about like all of my organs are up here.
Well, and
like it's like that's fucking trippy.
Yeah, no, I'm like looking at her, like thinking like, oh, wow. I mean, she's not the biggest human to begin with, so now knowing that like everything is pushed. Well, no, I'm vertically, not the biggest human.
I'm like, she's got some meat on her.
Well, you said you were a curvy baby, but
I was.
No, I'm saying vertically not the biggest human.
No.
Therefore, the condensed space to begin with that you were working with has now gotten even smaller.
Yes.
Obviously, 8 months and some change into this process. Yeah. It's probably going to continue to even get more condensed. No, and it's funny. The funny story. I'm here for you, babe. I love you. The funny story that is coming up right now that I would love for you to share with our listeners and those watching on YouTube is when you went swimming.
Oh, God. So, and it's improved. I can give you the update that it has improved. However, I just fantasized about getting in the pool and feeling weightless, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get in there. And mind you, I'm a swimmer. Like, I grew up swimming. I'm a strong swimmer normally, and like swim in the ocean kind of like I'm a swimmer. And I got in the pool and I push off towards the deep end, mind you, and I start off above water, and I just progressively start to sink. And I'm like, oh, shit. Oh, God. I'm like, what is happening? And it literally felt like I had a person, arms around my neck, legs around my waist, weighing me down. That would be my belly, just in case you didn't put that together. That would be my belly I'm describing. And I was like, why am I not
floating?
Weightless,
no buoyancy.
What's happening? I realized, obviously I made it, and she didn't drown.
She's still here. She's with us.
This is not my spirit speaking. This is me. What I realized is my form, like your body dynamics completely change being pregnant.
You're not as aerodynamic anymore.
Well, that and like at this stage in my pregnancy and like the weight of my belly and my boobs now, because that's a whole nother thing.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in a second.
But I have to, like, my center of gravity is different.
Who knows where now at this point?
In the quantum. It's like doesn't exist. So I lean back to not fall forward because I'm very clumsy now. And like I kind of like I have to stand up and like give myself a minute.
I feel like you no longer have. I feel like when we're moving in the world with our general kind of set body, we know how much space we take up.
When you're pregnant, it shifts. It all shifts. And so I walk with my back kind of arched already. And
she
when
has
I
such
swim,
a sexy walk. Like,
oh, it's very sexy.
Very sexy.
It's very seductive. It's so seductive. When my sciatica flares up, it's like, watch out. Watch out, men. Watch out, women. Watch out, everyone.
Everybody. All the beings.
All of the beings. Watch out. It's not sexy. It's actually really sad, but
it's beautiful.
That's another
She's growing a
topic.
human. It's beautiful.
So I realized later that when you normally swim, you're not, like, you're swimming with your back kind of arched to keep you above the water. But my back is already arched. And
to compensate for the different.
And it's arched, but there's this added weight in front. So you have to, like, hyper arch, which I had not stretched my stomach muscles in a long time to accommodate. So I was just like, sinking down and was like, what the fuck? So the next time I went,
did somebody toss you a ring?
No, I frantically doggy paddled into the edge
Did you
of the
try to
pool.
swim on your back?
I'm afraid to try that, only because laying on my back now, I can't really breathe.
So for those of you that are creative entrepreneurs, that are in the invention sector,
like create a pregnancy, like blow up
something like
inner
floaties
tube
for mommies. Floaties for mommies.
I'm sure that exists.
They have. I've heard them referred to as water wings, and I've seen the baby vests. The baby vests that they have now are the cutest things. Ooh. They're like kind of like a half life vest with like a crotch snap, and it makes them invincible. Like,
for me.
Well, you're gonna have. I will be there with you throughout the process. Like, you've got me. We're friends. Like, I've seen it all.
Like, I need you to pass this through my crotch.
Not for you, for the baby, but.
I was like, that sounds very complicated. I don't know if that's pregnancy friendly.
So feedback to that adventure pregnancy we just called out. Like, nothing through the crotch. She's still struggling with the reaching and the all around. So something that is seamless, inventors, something that will give her elegant buoyancy and let her enjoy, because this episode will come out in a couple of weeks, I think about, but it's still summertime. So,
and I live in the valley.
It's hot. So it's summertime. That. She lives in the valley. So if you know about this pillow, definitely, or this floaty device, definitely drop it for us to pass along to her. And if not, and you're an inventor, please do it in the next 4 weeks. Prototype.
Yes.
She'll be your beta tester.
Potentially.
Depending
on what you come up with.
Nothing in the crotch.
Nothing in the crotch.
So you had mentioned, and again, it wouldn't be, this is why I love just the idea of this podcast, because we talk about all the real and the raw. So you mentioned breasts, and I shared with you that a later part of the segment will talk about questions that I have for you from the men in the world. But what are the questions that have to do with what's going on with the boobs and the nipples and what's happening there?
A loss of control is what's happening. They're getting disrespectfully large, and I remember now, in this stage of my pregnancy, talking to my cousin's mom, and she was like, yeah, before I got pregnant with your cousin, I was a 34D, and then I got to an F when I was pregnant. I was like, what the fuck? I don't know what I would do. Yeah.
So where are you now?
I don't know. I stopped checking, but I'm past an F.
We'll
just leave it at that.
Oh, abundant breasts. Have you shifted into nursing bras or
No.
pregnancy bras or anything? Are you going bra free?
I stopped buying bras because bras are expensive, and I'm I don't know where the end is to this. I don't know what the end game is, and
Well, and I love. I've seen them, the unlatchables. If you plan to breastfeed, they actually bras? The bras will. And I'm gonna get the info from my sister-in-law and send it to you.
Yeah,
she found a website that has a whole line of breastfeeding friendly, cute too, not cheap but cute dresses, tops, hoodies, bras, it all unlatches, and pretty discreetly. Do you remember those on the cartoons when the babies used to have the little
the little cloth diapers?
Not the cloth diapers, the pajamas where it was
with
like
the
two little buttons on the butt and it would pop down. Well, that was my idea with that. With the dress, I was so blown away. She literally lifted, shifted, and flipped it out. And I mean, my niece is like definitely a boobie fiend. She loves, she says boobs, and her mom says, can you please call it milk or milkies?
Oh my God.
Here's my 18-month-old niece screaming at her mom, boobs, boobs. Like, she's like, stop, please, do not.
No, that's the thing. Like, a lot of the stories that I hear now, and I'm a part of a mom group, like either a mom to be or like, newer mom and there's like a thing that I had never heard of until I got pregnant about being touched out.
Oh,
and it's like when your body is a source of nourishment for another human being. And my mom like loves to tell a story about me when I was, I think like maybe 1.5 or something, but where you're constantly being pulled at and your boobs are being pulled at. And, it's like women can get to the point, birthing people can get to the point where they're just like, I don't even want to be touched anymore, unless it's like, I guess the counter of that is like replenishing touch. So like, if your partner is like massaging or, even like sexually, but something that is for you and not of you, like to take from you, but to like pour into you. Like that's what kind of counteracts that. But like, birthing people are like, I don't even want you to touch me anymore. I don't want to be touched by anybody. Leave me alone. But my mom tells this story about how she took me to New York. I was like probably 1.5 years, and I was talking already. And we were on the subway, and I was like cussing her out like, nanny now, mom, nanny now. And she said there was an elder woman who was sitting nearby, and she was just like, Like, this kid is old enough to like cuss you out.
Demand.
Like literally holler at you and cuss you out for breast milk. Like, what are you sourcing, ma'am? Like, what is happening here?
In your mom's defense, you were an advanced child who had, discovered language very young, which I've been told happens with girls. So, it's okay. And it happens. So actually, for those of you listening and for Ahimsa as well, if you haven't checked it out, episode 5 is actually with a good friend of mine, Jessica, and she talks about that. Like, she's, her baby is probably about 11 months now, 10 months, but she talks about like him, he's on her, he's touching her. And I've gone to their house before, and like, she tried to take him upstairs and put him in the crib because, it was bedtime. But having a new person in the space and the extra stimulation, like, he wasn't ready for bed. And, she brought him back down, and we're sitting on the couch, and he's literally like
pulling at
and
her
he's
clothes
little.
and,
So at that point, he was still really small, and he's shifting as much as he could at that moment. So I can't even imagine now. Another cool little device she has when your baby gets bigger, it's like a little fanny that has a
you can sit
a little
the baby
seat
on it.
for them. Amazing. She loves
those.
it. She swears by it. She says it protects her hip. She was not. I feel like she was a marsupial mom for a little while, but he's a very big. That's what they're called.
Marsupial.
Yeah. When you wrap and strap the baby to you. But he's a very big. He's a very big boy. So it was putting too much strain on hers and her husband's body to hold him there. And when he was small, like, it worked, but he quickly grew out of his things, of his marsupial pouch. So she like always has him, and she's like, oh, he loves this. He'll just sit there on my hip. He'll hold on. He'll, and he's getting closer to a year now. But she talked about being touched out, and she talked about like they lived in your body, so they don't have the same like restrictions. They don't know personal boundaries. To them,
and
you are
wouldn't. Like, they're,
well, but to them, up until probably like 3 or 2, they still think they're a part of you. Like they don't have a separate identity. Like you and them are one. This is something funny actually why babies say dad a lot sooner than mom. And I don't remember who told me that.
Part of me. Mom is a part of me.
Mom is a part of me, so I don't call her. She's mine. I don't call. She and I are one.
Yeah.
Dad
the difference.
Is an external being. So it's like, oh, dad. Like, I know you, dad.
Yeah.
So even like my niece, like she's never like, oh, where's mom? Because mom's always there.
Yeah.
She will literally, my sister-in-law, sister-in-love, they're not married, will send me videos of her saying, where's dada? Where's dada? All times of the day. And she's like, he's at work. And the baby's like, oh, yeah. Like, she forgot. And,
like,
still? Like, pretty much,
still?
like, yeah.
How long is a work day?
Where's dada? What is this work thing you're speaking of? But, no, it's
adult prison.
It is.
No, just hopefully not. Hopefully your job is not.
He's something you love. Yeah. But, no, it's just so fascinating. Again, like, all of these different things. And we'll have you back maybe one day in the future. Yes, for sure one day, but we don't know how far in the future. Yeah. Maybe baby will just have to come and be with us.
Make it
it'll be
cameo.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, obviously we talked about support system. We talked about emotional changes. We talked about physical changes. I'm really curious, just what do you think are issues, challenges, concerns that aren't discussed about pregnancy that you have experienced?
So we talked during our pre-interview, but there are a lot of things that you hear about postpartum, like challenges, like, oh my God, after you have a baby, you pee on yourself all the time. Newsflash, it happens while you're pregnant. It happens before the baby gets here. That was a surprise for me. Shout out to Dr. Curls, my pelvic floor doctor, because learned some tools to where I'm not peeing on myself anymore.
Well, and you're building the muscles up now, so that after a baby departs.
But, like, you sneeze, and you're like, oh, you laugh too hard, oh, you cough, oh. And at first you're like, wow, that's embarrassing, but then after all you're like, oh, this is a thing. It's not a one-off. This is actually a thing. And when you think about it from a logical standpoint, there's a baby sitting on your bladder. Your bladder doesn't move up into your boobs. Your bladder stays downstairs.
Stays where it is and gets a little pressure as the baby, especially I'd imagine as the baby gets, oof.
Sometimes the bladder gets a kick or an elbow, and you're like, okay.
Yeah. I'd imagine as the baby shifts position and his head down, ready to come out, that by that last one, I'm going to say, like, don't wear pants,
I never want to wear pants. Honestly, like,
be free.
I actually hate wearing pants now. I'm like,
what was your excuse before? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I didn't mind it. I actually preferred pants before, but now I'm like, do I have to?
I remember when we went out of town and you were wearing the most massive dress, floaty device thing, like
the moo
a schmuck moo
is my best friend, and it's funny because I found a cover up, like a swimming suit cover up, that's like a really big. It looks like an elegant moo-moo-esque that I forgot I had. Oh. And I just now found it. I was like, what the fuck? I could have been wearing this the whole time. Because, like, a lot of times, like, if I'm wearing pants, I'm like, after an hour or two, I'm like, I want these off. I want these off of me. Okay. I don't want to wear pants.
No more pants. Like, that's it.
I don't like wearing pants.
We're going to just have that commitment in your life. Right, no more pants, at least until, like, January.
Yeah.
Because after, postpartum, you're not going to want to put pants on either.
It's like, then we shift into the robe phase.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Which is what was one of the gifts that I brought to one of my friends when she had a baby. I brought her a really nice, really nice, soft, like, it was very thin and silky. So, in case she's hot. It was a 2-piece, like, little nightgown kind of deal with the, like, nice little robe. So, and again, if you're pulling them out, like, the less that there is there that blocks, what you're creating. Milk. So feeding your baby, which again, like, I've learned so much in the last like year and a half about milk and babies and everything that comes out. Again, part of what has inspired this podcast is just the vast amounts of information that I have learned from people close to me having babies. And I'm glad that y'all are doing it first, because it will help subsidize all of my fears and worries. And I used to joke that like growing a baby is like making a turkey on Thanksgiving, but like from start to finish. But in this case, it's actually like growing the turkey,
housing the turkey,
making
it's like rather than putting the turkey in the oven to cook it, you're putting it in your uterus to cook it.
And exactly what I said is, if there was something like minute rice, you know, where you can like Uncle Ben's minute rice, put it in the oven, put it in the microwave, baby's done. I'm like, could we just like shorten the process? And I'm like, I get it. Biologically, there's a whole reason behind. I mean, elephants do it for 22 months. So,
God bless.
Right? God Shout out to all the elephants out there that are like carrying for like almost 2 years.
Yeah. Another thing that kind of was a surprise to me is how. And being pregnant, I realized, like, okay, this is not unique to me. This is kind of like a thing. But, like, men really don't have... And, again, when you think about it, it seems logical. But when you're experiencing it, you're like, what the fuck is wrong with you? But, like, men are not having... They're not sharing the experience of growing a being inside of them with you, you know? So when I was having expectation of, like, understanding and like you should get this, right? Or you should feel the same level of connectivity that I do, like especially before I was showing. Like my husband was just like,
what's going on?
Like I don't, you know. And at first I was just like really offended by it, but it really took for me to understand, like, you would not know because you're not experiencing any of this. Like none of it. And now that I'm like very, very pregnant, there's a lot more like compassion and understanding, but like there was not
the blessing and the curse, right? Of like him not getting it.
Yeah. And you know, his whole thing was like, well, when the baby gets here, then my job starts. And I'm like, newsflash, your job started when
back in January.
Yeah, when I conceived. I don't know what
where you were
part of the game this is, but the game has happened. It's rolling. We're live.
We're in it. We're live.
We're live now. You know, but I think it's now he's starting to kind of like wrap his head around. It's like, oh, if you're tired, you know, rest. But like there was a whole, and mind you, I'm like full on SPD, like can't really move. And he's like, I just thought you were gonna be like going on hikes and in the gym and like moving and shaking and doing all this stuff. And I was like, are you nuts? Like what? And it took for like he actually looked up what SPD was when I got diagnosed. He was like, oh, like that's like really a thing. And I'm like, what do you think? I was like making this up? And then like, you know, my midwives would be like, how are you like managing like with SPD and like your sciatica like flaring up and all this kind of stuff? Like, how are you? And I think it's just now starting to dawn on him like, oh, you weren't just blowing smoke up my ass because you didn't feel like doing shit but watch
up the laundry
TV.
You're putting it.
Yeah, like you just didn't feel like doing the dishes. It's like, no, sir, I can't move.
Which again goes.
Like he literally had to get. I got stuck in the garage. I got stuck in the garage because my sciatica flared up and I was having SPD pain. And we had went for a walk. We attempted to go for a walk. I started to get in pain, so we went home. We were in the garage, and I literally couldn't walk. And I was stuck. And he had to go upstairs and get the office chair, get me and roll me upstairs. And even after all that, he still didn't
believe it. Like it just, and again,
he still didn't get it. And I was just like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, what is your problem? And then it's like, you would be disconnected because this is not happening to you.
Yeah.
This is not, you're not experiencing any of this, you know. But he has a female friend who was like, you know what you do? Go and set an intention of like picking out a gift for your baby. Like take the time to intentionally pick something out for your baby. And that changed things for him. Like, we went together. He picked out he's a cat daddy.
Cat daddy.
He picked out a little stuffy, a little cat stuffy. And, I picked out a little lamb chop stuffy and a little onesie. And then, we get home and he looks at the onesie and he's like, and he, puts it on his shoulder and he's like, and I'm like, yeah, there's a baby coming.
Well, and now hearing this for the first time, what kind of blows my mind is, I know during our pre-interview you mentioned this is your first baby, but this is not his first.
No, but he was a child, when he
now I know you said his youngest is 17.
Yeah, she's a senior in high school.
So we'll do some math. He was early 20s.
His first kid, he was 17.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So and at that time, he was working, 14-hour days, so he wasn't, really face-to-face with his former partner's pregnancy journey. He was at work all day and, would come home late at night and then leave the house. He would be at work at, 5 a.m. and stuff. So he wasn't really, confronted with all of that for any of his previous kids. So this is the first for him where he's witnessing
the whole journey. Yeah.
And all this being in his face. I don't know what his previous partner went through or if there were challenges there or not, or if there was a difficult pregnancy or not. But if there was, I don't know that he would have been in relationship with any of that.
Well, and also, obviously, he himself has also been in his own healing journey and doing his own work.
Absolutely.
And so there's even that to factor in of this is his first time too. Mm-hmm. In this, again, iteration version of himself, this is his first time. Mm-hmm. And I think because now being an older dad and a geriatric dad, can we call him that?
Okay, because he's... Quiet as it's kept. He's older than you.
He's older than you. So if you're a geriatric mom, you're
geriatric dad.
Sir, Mr. Taha, if you're listening, we are going to call you geriatric too.
Okay. We'll call you Jerry from now on.
No more Taha, just Jerry.
You're Jerry now.
So what do you feel like there was anything that has been again, going back to what's not discussed? Has there been any taboos that have come up? I mean, I know earlier you mentioned, TMI, and I'm like, no TMI. Tell me everything.
Oh, we're talking about that. In terms of taboo, I would actually mention something different. What I've noticed is the mama bear instinct has already kicked in for me. And as you mentioned, we are not sharing, or we don't know either, but we're not sharing the gender of our child until we find out. We don't find out when everybody else finds out.
Until they come out.
And there was questions about that, why would you do that? And why? And, I personally have a couple of reasons. I mean, one was that I didn't want to create this whole journey around my child's gender before they're even here and have, gender norms already being placed on it. I just didn't want to do all that. Mm-hmm. And also because this is a sacred thing for me. Me being pregnant is a sacred thing, and that's something that I kept tight for as long as I could.
Until you couldn't.
And now it's I guess I could try to hide this, but it would be really hard because this belly is outside.
Well, I remember the first time I saw you, I think you were wearing oversized jeans, and it was just pop, and I'm like, well, I saw you a week ago. I saw you a week ago. I didn't know you were pregnant. We had literally spent whatever, it was few hours together.
When it popped, that G thing popped all the way. And but the gender is something that I can still keep sacred.
Yeah, it's yours.
And there were folks that were just like, I just don't get, like, why would you do that? And like, you know, a kid can come up with their own gender identity. You finding out the gender now doesn't change that. And I was just like, why are you questioning?
Right, get out of my business.
Yeah.
That's what we should make taboo. Like,
yeah, it's just like
that. I mean, I want people to
like,
communicate.
I get it now. Like when, you know, and again, there obviously are lines. Like if there's harm being done to a child or like irresponsible behavior, then obviously step in. But like, you know how people always say, like, don't tell a parent how to raise their kid. Like I get it now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, because I'm like, the devolved part of me is just like, because I fucking said so. Like that's
this
why.
is me, my baby, my journey, whatever I want.
But and also it's just like I'm noticing the like, you know, like you don't get to.
This is not yours.
Yeah.
This is mine.
Like,
I'm literally growing it.
So there's the other side of me is like, don't be a psycho mom when the baby gets here. Like,
well,
there's
and
a fine
also,
line.
but also, like, I wouldn't even say like it's a psycho mom. Like, you're creating a boundary for yourself, and you're human that you made from scratch. Like, that's yours. It's all yours. From healing, from love, from commitment, from... She shared a little during her pre-interview, some of the crazy early encounters with her and her husband when they were first dating. That's all. This is the result of every piece of your journey that has now gotten you to this point.
Yeah.
And if you want people to back the bleepity bleep up, well, we said fuck a lot already. But if you want people to back the fuck up, like,
seal on that.
I am like... I'm very much like, this is my space, please don't touch me.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, with the group of friends that we have, like, there's a lot of physical intimacy. And what bothers me is, like, the conversation of, like, it's still my choice.
Yeah.
And I know I feel bad about this with pregnant women when people will just touch them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, okay, hold on. That would be a taboo for me where I'm like, excuse me.
But oddly enough, because I was kind of like ready, there's only been one occurrence where I kind of like, because I wasn't really feeling that person at the time, and I was like, I don't want your energy around my baby.
Like, stop touching.
But oddly enough, I have had a lot of people be very respectful and ask.
Okay.
Which I wasn't prepared for. I was prepared for people to be very invasive and just like, oh... But I haven't gotten that.
I love
Except
that.
for that one time, and I kind of...
Excuse me. Pardon me.
Like,
human.
Not you.
No. I know it's not me.
You, not now. But, and I'm, you know, thanking my lucky stars for that. You know, I also feel very strongly that my baby is, like, nah. Like, I feel like my baby is very
legs crossed, arms
strong.
crossed, like... Yeah. Well, I mean, again, the roots of, like, grandma and mama, like, it is not... and dad, we love you. We know you have strong roots. Cat daddy. It takes a lot to love a cat, so I know he's a strong man. Cats are very strong, and, you know,
We love her.
They know.
But, yeah, I really feel like my baby in a lot of ways has, like, really protected me energetically throughout this journey, and I feel like my baby doesn't allow certain weirdo shit. Like, I think my baby's like, that. I'm not having
I'm not for that. I'm not for
not
that.
having that.
He's
not
already,
in this space.
They're already protecting you.
Yeah.
And I love that. I think, again, you're in this symbiosis of mutual exchange. You are literally a source of, like, nutrients and the house and everything. So I'm glad that, you know, they may not be paying bills yet, but they're pulling their weight now energetically.
Different
all
currency.
the kicks and the love and the well, which is why, you know, I wanted you to obviously come on while you were growing the baby, because we were joking about that you know, people forget things and they don't talk about all the discomfort, and they don't talk about the stuff that is taboo. And I'm grateful that we were able to make it happen, you know, with only one reschedule, which I'm very impressed by. Like, I actually had planned out, like I said, your episode's not going to come out for a couple weeks. Like, I had planned out some time just in case you had to, like, renegotiate.
Because I had my pelvic floor doctor and my chiropractor in the same day, and the work that we did that day, sometimes it gets worse before it gets better. And I was like, my body is fucked up right now.
Yeah.
Like, I could thug it out, but you might not get that great of an interview.
No. And I'm grateful that you said you cleared your day to do nothing all day for us to be able to come here and have this.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned, so thank you. Yes, thank you. You had mentioned people telling you things, right? And so what I would be curious is, like, what advice have you gotten that will go both ways, you would absolutely no thank you reject, and then what has been the best part of, or the best advice that you've received?
Oh, God. Advice that I would reject. I don't think I've gotten anything that was, like, crazy where I'm like, there's no fucking way. Like, I'm not doing that. But, like, I think there's probably been advice more so that I'm just like, that's not really my style, but, you know, I could see the value in it. Pregnancy brain, I'm trying to think right now, like, what.
No, you've done amazing this whole time.
But there's been a lot of advice that I would take. I've been around a lot of birth workers since being pregnant, especially, like, you know, in the latter part of my pregnancy. And one of the and it's not just one thing that she's told me, but it's been like the theme of things that she's made me aware of. My oldest childhood friend, who was also on my birthing team, Leia, I love you. But she has really made me very aware of, like, the importance of, like, postpartum prep. Like, being aware that, like, hey, you are going to need a certain amount of support, and you're going to need to prepare yourself to turn off, because you're really only going to have the stamina and the bandwidth to, like, keep your child alive. Like, you're not going to really have a whole lot of extra shit. So she had me fill out this, like, intensive questionnaire where, like, I get very specific about, like, what do I want that to look like? And there were a lot of things that I hadn't even considered, you know, like, you know, what about visitation? Like, do you care if your house is, like, inundated with people? Do you only want a certain amount of people there? Who do you want to show up? What about food? What about house maintenance? You know, like, those are things that, like, I didn't think. It's like,
because you do them
to give birth, and then that's where the preparation, my preparation had stopped.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yeah, there's a whole after you give birth period where your body needs to recover.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you're open, not just physically open, but energetically open. You were just a portal
for a
to
whole
bring
being.
Someone from the spirit world into this realm. That's not to be slept on, although it often is.
Yeah.
And a lot of what my functional medicine doctor told me was that, like, a lot of women end up getting into postpartum depression because there's no aftercare.
Yeah. And, you know, that is specific to this country, that we don't have that. I know.
There's no ceremony around it. There's no
nothing.
Consideration. You know, like, there's a whole thing, like, around traditional birth, and a lot of other cultures do this, and a lot of elders remember back in the day, this was, like, the norm, but, like, you don't leave the house for, like, at least 40 days, which I plan on doing.
Okay, well, I'm going to coordinate with some people, and we'll get you a meal train going.
Love you.
There is which I've sent money to so many people, like, especially people that mutual people we know, where I'm like, hi, yes, sure, here's, you know, whatever, $40, like, buy a dinner, which, I mean, now in modern times with Uber Eats, that'll get you, like, a taco for you.
Right.
But that's it. I don't care. He can
With
leave
no
the house.
toppings,
You can get
no
tacos.
salsa.
No meat. No.
Right.
We're going to find some really good vegan places for you. But in advance, I actually make a amazing vegan, gluten-free lasagna that I will make and freeze, and we'll even pre-cut it so that you can scoop out pieces to heat up.
Don't threaten me
I got
to
you.
get
No. Make sure you got a spot in your freezer. We may just get you a deep freezer. Like, if you're on, if
I
you're,
will
you're
accept
coming
all
to the
gifts.
baby shower.
I am receiving.
Bring-
I'm learning to receive.
Let's
so I am
let's
not
get
gonna
together.
Tell you no.
We'll get her a deep freezer because especially when you start pumping that liquid gold, like you are going to want a deep freezer, and we're going to put the energy that you're going to be abundant so that you have a stockpile.
I'm like, they can't be this big for nothing. Like there's got to be something.
It would be
going on
such
in
a
there.
sad waste.
That would be
if,
such
like,
a sad.
We're just
sad
gonna hope. I don't
waste.
remember what they're called, but we're just gonna say like an active lactator. I don't know if that's the right term.
An abundance
but
of lactation.
she's gonna be abundantly, lactating. No, but what I remember this from years ago. Two different things. One, in France, it's part of the a social service provided by the government. They send a woman to your house when you give birth. Like, here is A.K.A. Mary Poppins, whatever the French Marie Poppins, send her to your house and they're there. So I don't know if it's day or if it's night, but you essentially have a nurse / county worker, government worker, who will come in and provide you care. So that's one.
Fuck, we're so backwards.
We're so
here.
backwards.
It's like everyone else is like doing really cool shit, and we're just like, but no, why would we do cool shit for people?
So,
why?
and then my guest Jessica on episode 5, her mother-in-law actually does this. She's Korean. She will go to mothers' houses after they give birth, and I don't know if it's day or night, but she's there with the mother. She might even move in and hang out with you, but she's there to provide care for you. And obviously,
nice.
Then you do have your nanny, your night nurse, whoever that comes in and is supporting with the baby. But I would assume she does both, but it's really for your aftercare as well.
Yeah.
I would recommend a large trash can for you, after, because the things that don't all come out when you're birthing, they're going to continue to come out for a couple of weeks, I would imagine. I don't know the timeline. I can get you those specifics, but, and really shout out to my brother's partner, who's also named Jessica. She has taught me a lot. She did a home birth.
Yeah.
I was in the middle of something, and they also live 400 miles away, so I was not there. I did get a call that morning when she was in labor. I was not physically there in the room, although I heard it was quite a show from her 7-year-old, who was front and center for the birth. She was
Beautiful.
it was me, my vagina, the midwife, and your 7-year-old nephew, and then your brother. In terms of the show seating arrangements.
Okay.
He was so fascinated. He was so curious. He wanted to just be in there and watch as baby Savannah made her way into the world. But it just, I'm going to say that again because I don't want to say baby's name. As baby girl made her way into the world, he was there front and center. So again, we'll chat about this, but I know that it's so beautiful to see what you're sharing in terms of connecting yourself to the sacred practice, connecting yourself, bringing in your spiritual life and who you are, as well as, non-traditional medicine, bringing all the resources in to support you. I love that you said birthing team. I'd imagine you think earlier you said midwives, so there's more than one. Do you have a doula as well?
My mom.
Aw, I love that. Yeah. Grandma doula. Will she be granny? Is this her first?
Yeah, this will be her first grandchild.
Wow.
So she's very stoked.
I love it. Is your brother younger or older?
He is older.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
it's just the two of us. So.
That's not his jam. He's not.
Well, I think it's not his jam. I just don't think that he's, there yet.
Such a luxury that men have.
Right. We were talking about that earlier today. As long as that thing is operational and is not shooting blanks, you could be in your 80s procreating, which is wild.
I think there was I met one of Larry King's sons this was probably about 10 years ago, and he was 16 or 17.
Beautiful.
Like, met him randomly. They live in, like, Tarzana or, Encino, somewhere up in the hills. And I was at, like, a random Starbucks. And, like, I want to say that the kid's name is Larry also. Like, I don't remember how exactly I knew that, like, he was Larry King's son. But it was, like, a whole thing of, like, the coffee being called his name. And I was like, huh.
Interesting.
I was like, oh, that's so... I made the comment probably like, oh, your name's Larry King, haha, like the guy. And he's like, yeah, the guy's my dad. But
you're like, oh.
Like, isn't he like 100?
So look at Al Pacino. Al Pacino, or was it Robert De Niro?
That just had a baby?
Right?
That just recently had a baby?
Yeah.
I think so. So again, yeah.
I think he's like 80 or something like that. I'm just like, I guess.
Whatever. To each their own, right? So is there, I did have one more question that I want to ask, and then we'll ask if you have like a final advice. Has there been any like resources outside of obviously your birthing team? Has there been any other resources that have really supported you during your pregnancy, whether it's tech or education or maybe even some apps?
Honestly, the resources that I've leaned on the most have been from my birthing community. Because in the first trimester and a half of my pregnancy, like I said, I was, in the space, I was knee deep in LP. I wasn't really like hyper focused on like, you're gonna have a kid
growing a human here.
Because at the time it felt like I had so much time. And when I tell you, it feels like I found out I was pregnant and I blinked and now I'm 8 months and change pregnant.
Yeah, just a few weeks out.
It was literally like that. But I played myself in the beginning. I was like, time, you'll figure it out.
Oh.
And so then I got into, and I remember my homegirl who's, on my birthing team telling me that she had another client who had waited till she was like 32 weeks, I think, before she filled out the questionnaire that I filled out. And I was like, what? Wow, that's so late in the game. Guess when I filled mine out?
32 weeks?
I was at 30 weeks. And I was like, oh, that's how it happens. It's just like you blink and then 30 weeks has gone by. So a lot of the resources and education I got have been from that birthing team and birthing community, because I was just kind of like thinking I had so much time and that I'll figure it out. I'll look into it. And then also because I was so busy in the first part of my pregnancy and I was still working and I was still taking clients and stuff. And I was like I thought I was going to like teach myself piano, and then I got a piano instructor and was like, I'm going to learn how to play the piano. That didn't last very long.
Well, simultaneously growing your baby.
And playing LP.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to do it all. And I was like, yeah, so by the time I would finish all of that stuff, like, ask me, did I have bandwidth to, like, research about anything or look into anything? I didn't. I played myself severely in the first half of my pregnancy. But I learned very quickly to slow the F down. And now I'm getting all that from my birthing community, which has been really nice. Like, I've been sent videos and movies, about, like, what to expect when I'm going through labor, what to expect afterwards, what's going on societally around childbirth and around, birthing people and, legal stuff and, the history of, hospital birth, which is actually a fairly new phenomenon. You know what I mean? Like,
are you doing it hospital or are you're home?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of resources that I've gotten from them.
Well, if you want, definitely send me the info and I'll drop it in the show notes. And we'll shout out to them and give them, put their info in there if anyone wants to, if anyone's pregnant or thinking about getting pregnant and they want that resource, like, definitely would love to, like, support them as well, because they've supported you so much. And I think that I love the fact that even now, with certain even medical plans, policies, whatever, it does cover like doulas, and they're bringing doulas into even the hospitals and into the hospital births. I shared that with my friend because my sister-in-law had said that to me, that she's like, oh yeah, you know, have her reach out to her medical insurance because it may be something that's covered.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And I mean, I love that because again, like just in our modern medicine, like there is definitely a breakdown in resource exchange and information exchange and what's made available to you. And P.S. medical community, the request is that you remove or find a alternative word for geriatric and stop making women feel like they are 100 years
like
old
we're
when they are 38.
Because we're not 23.
And who can have babies at 23? Like, financially?
I mean, what in the 1940s is this? Like, we're not there.
No,
we're not there.
No.
Like, there are some brave souls that are very elevated and, you know, are ready to do that in their early 20s. It's not the standard anymore, though. Yeah. Like, a lot of women have careers. They have things that they're doing. There's a lot of female entrepreneurs that are like, I get to handle all of this stuff, get my footing, get my foundation squared away, and then I'll think about having kids. And they're not having kids in their 20s, and some are not having kids in their 30s.
No, like,
so it's like,
at this point, if like, well, I don't want to say if, we'll say when. When I have kids, it's not. I'm past 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
I mean, again, those of you listening, some of the early episodes I talk about being in my 30s. Well, guess what? I celebrated 40. So here I am on the other end. And know that, like, I've seen memes and different things where it's like, oh, let's learn to celebrate that. Because there are so many women, so many people in general who do have amazing experiences in their 20s and 30s.
Right.
And they don't really connect to who they are and what they're here to do until they're in their 40s.
Yeah.
And like you said, if you had had this baby at any other time before, you wouldn't have been who you get to be now for them.
Right. And I really strongly believe that. Like, I know, and I used to joke, like, when I was in my early 20s, I'd be like, I'm going to be an old-ass parent. Like, I already know I'm going to be an old-ass parent. And according to medicine, I am. I'm a senior citizen parent. But I know that is how it had to happen for me. And everybody's got a different path and a different journey, and it's going to make the decisions that are, you know, aligned with their path and their journey. And for me, this is how it had to happen. And I know that I'm very firm in my understanding of that.
Yeah. And it's beautiful. So the last, again, I acknowledge you for being connected to that and knowing that this is perfect and everything happens the way it's supposed to. That takes a lot of surrender for us to controlling people in the world who, by the way, get stuff done. But yes, the surrender. Yeah. So just as we close out here, are there any last words, any messages that you'd like to share with listeners, expecting mothers or future mothers?
Yeah. I know we talked about a lot of challenge and struggle about being pregnant, and all of that is very real. And I don't want to sugarcoat it and be like, you know, being pregnant is easy and there's nothing that comes up. And there are people who have like these fucking unicorn pregnancies that don't have any issues and never get fatigue and never get morning sickness and never get anything. And there's people who develop gestational diabetes and have, you know, migraines and throw up every day until they deliver. And there's people in the middle. And what I really want to drive home is that it's all worth it. No matter, and you know, like sometimes people are like, oh, I feel sorry for you that you're in pain, or I'm sorry that you're, and I'm like, I'm not, because I know what's at the other side of this. And I know that after all of this is said and done, I get to look at my child's face and see what it was all for. And not just what the pregnancy challenges was all for, but what everything up until this point was all for. You know? Like, that is my biggest legacy, you know? And it doesn't bother me that I haven't had like a cakewalk of a pregnancy, because I know that. I know that, like, in 6 weeks, give or take, I'm going to get to look at this human being and be like, fuck yeah.
I made that.
Yeah, I made that. And this kid is the culmination of my entire journey of life and every ancestor I've ever had up until this point. So all of their struggle, all of their sacrifice, all of their hardship, all of mine is worth it because of you. You know?
I hope baby's listening.
Oh, baby's definitely listening. Baby's probably my mouthpiece right now. But, you know, I don't want that to get lost in because there's a lot of like fear mongering in this country, particularly around childbirth. And like all we ever see about childbirth is like women screaming in pain and, you know, being discomfort and like being in a hospital, like with their knees up to their chest.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's really impressed upon birthing people that pregnancy and labor is this traumatic, horrible, you know, fucked up thing, but they don't really show any of the beauty. Like everything that I've learned being pregnant about myself, about my body, the way that I value my body now, and I'm not picking myself apart like I used to. Like there was a time where like, you know, I was in an interview for when I was doing my artistry, and it was for a beauty brand, and she asked me like what my favorite part of my body was, and I couldn't name anything, so I said my hands. Like now I'm like, how much time do you have?
Where would you like me to start?
Yeah, because I'm like, look at how much like the shifts and the changes and the things that my body is withstanding to create life. I'm like, yeah, this is my body. And yeah, my body is doing some random weird shit from time to time. And I'm like,
okay,
things are changing and whatever. But I'm like, I look at my body and I'm like, wow, the gratitude, you know?
Yeah, no, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And again, like, thank you for just sharing that. Just so real and authentic.
Yeah.
Again, shout out to all the mommies out there who are growing babies right now.
Yeah.
You are beautiful. You are perfect. Even the moments when you don't feel it.
Yeah.
And you feel disconnected. And it does feel like similar to how I said I can feel my digestion. Now you have, there's a woman that I met the other day, and she said that she doesn't know anymore what she's pretty, I think she's due in December, but she doesn't know what's her body.
Oh,
and what's the baby's
baby?
body? Like she's like, he's so tiny right now, so I don't know like what.
Like, is that gas or is that the baby?
Was that me or was it them? But no, like honoring that, and I think that is definitely a lost art, a lost connection in who we be as women, where we came from, the generations of women that have struggled and to create life, and we are all the result of that. And I love that you said gratitude, because I'm always mesmerized by women and what we create. And even if it's not creating a life, but just in being connected to our divine feminine and what we get to create in this world. So thanks so much for being on our episode today and sharing the good and the bad and the uncomfortable. We won't call it ugly. It's all beautiful.
It's all beautiful, though.
So stay tuned for our next section called Women Demystified. We have a couple fun pregnancy-specific questions for Ahimsa. Welcome back to our section called Women Demystified, where men can submit questions and ask all of those things that they've been told not to ask, anything taboo, anything, that's off the questionnaire generally is now fair game here. I acknowledge all of my guests who are willing to take on these questions and answer. So if you are interested in submitting your questions, follow us at the Nipple Chronicles on Instagram, or visit our website at thenipplecchronicles.com and submit your questions. Feel free to slide in the DMs and give me all the questions that you've been afraid to ask women. And again, no topic is off limits here. We are the real and we are the raw. So let's jump right in. So again, Ahimsa, welcome. Thank you for showing up in 8+ months pregnant. And the questions that I picked for you today are pregnancy specific. Yeah. So the question that was brought to me was, how is your husband handling the pregnancy? Has he really been supportive, or are there things that he could be doing that he's not doing?
So my husband is really a doer. So I think, especially in the beginning of my pregnancy, when I wasn't really showing very much, and there was a lot of disconnection between him and me as a pregnant person, and the fact that there's a baby growing inside of me, and that came with symptoms and, emotional shifts. I think there was a lot of disconnection in the beginning because, again, he's a doer, and there wasn't really anything he could do to offset any of that. And I felt like, when he feels like he's not able to do something about it, he kind of just checks out completely. So that was kind of challenging for a large chunk of my pregnancy. And now that I'm very pregnant, and it's
obvious,
very obvious. Also, he's gotten a lot more education about certain things that are affecting me specifically during my pregnancy. There's been a shift where he, will recommend that I rest. If you're tired, take a nap. Or, what are you eating? Have you drank water? Him being more attentive in that way. Mm-hmm. What I wish that I would see more of from him is more of the connectivity aspect. Again, I understand that I've become aware, rather, that there is this thing with guys where, because they're not the pregnant body in the group, they don't have relationship with, the energetic relationship with, what's occurring like a pregnant person would have. Yeah. They just don't have that. Yeah. And that manifests in different ways for different papas, I wish that I would see more of him making an effort to energetically connect.
Yeah. Even if it's reading baby a story or talking or...
Yeah, there's moments where he'll do that, but it's very, inconsistent. And, having that not only energetic connectivity, but, intimacy with, me. Energetic and intimate connection with me. And not just, physical intimacy, but, emotional intimacy, his belief system in the beginning was when the baby gets here, that's when my job starts. And I'm well, that's not really true.
Yeah.
But
he's listening, or they're listening. Baby's listening.
Yeah.
So I love that. That he, he does do it, but
mm-hmm.
I'm going to cut
this. We're going to source that.
I'm going to cut this part of the episode out early before I finish editing everything and send him this message. It'll be my gift to future baby. Hi, would you like to know what your wife is asking for? I have it. I will share it with you. And again, like you said, it's that opportunity for you and for him to create that intimacy, to actually I love when you see, and not to say that he's not an active parent already, but that the understanding that he's already a part of this equation. Obviously, half of his DNA is growing inside of you, but knowing that it goes just beyond that, and that it isn't just wait and see, and when the baby's here, that he could have been, and it's not too late. You still have 6+ weeks to connect, and for him to be there, and that little human comes out of the womb and now knows, I got two. right? Imagine the baby doesn't say dada for a long time because they're so blessed to have both connections to both beings. It will put a lot less strain on you postpartum if there's another being that this human is willing to like identify and trust and know. Yeah. Again, what is it that babies are born with? Only 2 fears. Yeah,
it's fear of sudden loud noises and falling.
Yeah. So they don't know. They don't know anything outside of you right now. But it's possible for him to create some connection.
And like also, you know, and I know that part of this too is just like us being different people and, you know, coming from different backgrounds, but like part of me wishes that there was more sacred intention put towards this from him, like that he perceived this journey as more of a sacred thing. And I know that that's not really his thing so much as it is mine, but that would be nice. But that, you know, again, that's everybody's got their own jam.
Well, and again, like you said, even though, yes, this is baby number 5 for him, he's had a very different experience. Yeah. And who knows, like, you can put the request out and you can bring this. I would invite you to, you know, if it's something that really does matter, like, be clear with that. You know, and thank you for sharing that. Because again, if you are out there and you are listening and you are having this similar experience as Ahimsa, like, again, the invitation would be to ask for what you need. And
and I pride myself that I have been vocal. Yeah. Because the alternative is like stuck energy, and I feel that would be harmful. Yeah. For me as a pregnant person to create stuck energy while I'm growing a being inside of me, you know. Yeah. So it's like I let it out.
I love it. Well, speaking of letting it out, question number 2. Again, thank you very much for just your raw authenticity. Question number 2, though, is how is your sex life since getting pregnant?
In the beginning, it was pretty non-existent. Again, due to all of the, you know, SPD pain and, you know, not feeling well and like being really, really fatigued and all that stuff. Like, you're not in the mood. Like, the idea of having sex was like, oh God, that sounds like a lot of work. Like, it didn't feel like something that I was like, ooh, that sounds like fun. Like, it was just like, that sounds like work. Yeah. You know? Like, taking my pants off sounds like work.
Well, now you don't wear pants, so how has that shifted?
Well, she's wearing pants right now, and they're ready to not, she's ready to not be wearing pants.
We've reached that maximum.
Yeah, we've reached that line. But, interestingly enough, which I kind of would think would be the opposite, but like, the more pregnant that I get, the more interested in sex that I get. And it's just like, oh, that's interesting, because it's like, there's a giant belly here, which makes it a little bit more
creative.
You have to get a little more creative with a big belly there. Yeah. You know, and it's hard. It's not like a big belly that can like compress down. And when there's something
that baby in.
When there's something that's pressing on top of the belly, then I'm feeling the baby like, hey, what's going on out there? So
what are you doing?
Kind of a buzzkill, you know, or the baby's like, you know, wants to move somewhere that's not comfortable for me. So it's kind of like, so certain
positions
things don't
kind of
work
off the table
the way that they used to. But yet and still, like
she's ready and ready.
Deeper into the pregnancy I get, I'm like, my husband's looking really, really handsome.
We talked about that earlier during the pre-interview. Like, oh, the pheromones and the like, hello, cat daddy. Like, how are you today? So, no, I love that. And that is such an interesting, I've always thought that was an interesting phenomenon. I know that a lot of my my references to life and pregnancy have come from watching Sex and the City, but I remember when Miranda was pregnant and she was just like, oh my God, like I'm so horny. Like the more pregnant I get and nobody's going to want to have sex with me, because she was single. Like she wasn't with her partner. I mean, she wasn't with the baby's father. And then eventually I think they did like have sex. He was like, I'd sleep with you. Like, oh, what a champion. He took
Thanks for taking one for the team. Like, what is that? I'd sleep with you.
I'd sleep with you.
I'll do you a solid. What?
Yeah, no, and I love that. I love that you are able to continue to create that intimacy and have fun. I mean, just because there's a being occupying your space right now, like it's still your body.
Yeah.
So no, I love that. And again, like all of you out there, like enjoy yourself, enjoy your life, enjoy your body.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that, again, like I would like to drive home is, you know, being pregnant is not like the worst thing that could happen to you, you know, and I think society tries to make birthing people feel that way, and that's not actually true. And I think the more in tune that we allow ourselves to be with our own bodies, and the more okay we are with our own bodies, then the less we, you know, are impressionable, I guess, by all of the societal shit that tries to like make you feel like this is something wrong.
Oh, this weird thing that's happening.
And I'm like, well, none of us would be here without pregnancy.
If someone wasn't willing to go on this journey.
Yeah, so it can't be all bad and it can't be all wrong. You just get to figure out where you fit in all of this and what makes this experience the most pleasurable or the most, you know, easy flowing as it's going to be for you, you know? But like I said, I really feel like I'm the most okay with my body as a pregnant body than I've ever been. And I think that's facilitated me being able to like want to have sex at 8 months pregnant, because I am not like looking at my body like, oh my God, I hate the way that, you know, it's just like my body's fucking badass.
It's making a whole human right now.
Yeah, and honestly, like I am 191 pounds now, which I've never been before, but I know that in Western medicine, I don't know if this is across the board, but they like to see you have gained a pound per week of pregnancy. So I'm right on target. So I'm like, fuck yeah, like I'm 191. I'm right on target. I'm 33 weeks pregnant. I'm 33 weeks,
33
pounds up. You know, and I'm looking at my body and I'm like, and look at how you're fucking carrying this weight. Like, you're doing a great job.
I don't see it in your face. I don't see it even when you put your hand out. Like,
I mean, I'm not wearing my rings anymore because my hands are too big for them now. But
they're abundant. They're abundant with all the nourishing blood and hormones and fluids moving
warm
around.
And gooey stuff. But I'm like, I look at my body and I'm like, yeah, man, like you are doing the damn thing, you know. And I think that's again like why I could be intimate physically and not be weird about it. You know, like it gets a little awkward sometimes when you're trying to maneuver around the belly, but
just flip him around.
Yeah, but
not baby them, but like husband them. Like,
well, it's more so like me kind of trying to find what works.
Well, sure. But, again, to Taha, yeah. You better do some stretches and support Mama here to like. You get to move around too.
No, it's. I'm saying that not to say that he's not willing, but because like
you don't know.
He doesn't know what is a comfortable position for me or not. So I get to like, let me see what I get to do.
You might have to bust out some more of those pillows and like move some things.
Oh, I have a fortress worth of pillows.
I know. We talked about this.
Yeah.
I asked if there was still room for your husband.
Yeah, there's a corner.
He gets a little spot on the edge.
Yeah.
It's fine. Like, you get what you get, babe. Love you.
Love love you. I mean it.
Well, thanks so much for being here again and for playing along and answering the fun questions about pregnancy and sex and your nipples and everything that goes into growing a human. I again acknowledge your authenticity, your rawness, and just really grounding our listeners in like honoring your body, honoring where you are. You are doing something that's amazing and beautiful. So for everyone listening, stay tuned for more episodes of the Nipple Chronicles as we continue on this journey, just really showcasing the beautiful tapestry that is womanhood. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to episode 8 of the Nipple Chronicles. Before we wrap up today's episode, a big shout out to our wonderful sponsors, the Village Workspaces. Whether you're an entrepreneur, freelance, or creative soul, the Village Workspaces are the perfect environment to foster creativity and productivity. With state-of-the-art facilities and a community that thrives on collaboration, it's more than just a workplace. It's a place where ideas grow and connections are made. Visit the Village Workspaces today to see why it's an ideal spot for anyone to push the boundaries of what's possible. And remember, when you mention the Nipple Chronicles, you'll receive a special offer on your first visit. Make your next big move at the Village Workspaces, where your potential meets opportunity.